Come with me as we make fun of a Madea movie. A group of frat boys led by Jonathan prepare for their Halloween event. They mention recruits for special effects makeup, a hacker, and stunt-performing twins. After the twins' stunts, Jonathan and his friends meet nearby girls, Tiffany, Ade, Leah, and Rain, and invite them to their party. Rain reveals they attend an all-menstruation school. Tiffany accepts the invite, though Ade is hesitant. Suddenly, Tiffany's dad, Brian, arrives and questions the girls. Dino rudely confronts him, leading to a heated exchange until another frat boy, Horse, intervenes. Is that his real name? Or did he get the nickname Horse for some eggplant reason? Brian tells him off too, calling him a Thor wannabe. Jonathan apologizes for his brother's behaviors, and they go inside. Brian reminds Tiffany to avoid the frat house and tells her to get in the car. She insists they can walk, leaving him upset. On the way, Tiffany offers costumes for the party, but Ade thinks attending is a bad idea. Once home, Brian reprimands Tiffany for breaking his rules about the frat house and messing up her uniform since she's still in high school. Father and daughter argue about it while Ade awkwardly spectates. Brian warns her that college boys only want one thing, but Tiffany's brother BJ steps in and asks what he's referring to. Well, the name BJ gives it away. Brian lies and orders BJ to pack his things, prompting Tiffany to ask why he needs to pack. Brian tells Tiffany that she and BJ will stay at their mom's tonight since he has to work and doesn't want Tiffany alone on Halloween. Tiffany suggests Ade stay with her, and Ade follows her suggestion. Brian lacks control over his daughter, as she tells him to inform Ade's dad about their sleepover. In Tiffany's room, she persuades Ade to join them at the Halloween party. Before they search the attic for costumes, Tiffany receives a text from Jonathan. Meanwhile, Brian speaks to his kid's mother on the phone, who insists Tiffany stay with her. After the call, Brian discovers Tiffany's plan for Halloween through notifications on her tablet, revealing her chat with Jonathan. On Halloween night, two grannies, Bam and Madea, argue about spending money on candy. Bam hands out candy, but sneaks some from a kid's bucket. Madea catches her, and Bam admits she's done it for years. A boy in a cow costume arrives, and Madea makes fun of him, mentioning he won't fall for Bam's tricks since he counts candies, not calories. Bam hushes Madea, gives the boy candy, and sneaks some again. The boy notices and accuses her, leading to his mom confronting Bam. Bam denies it and blames the boy's behavior on poor parenting. Madea defends Bam, suggesting the boy should trick or treat for a treadmill. The boy charges at Madea, but his mom stops him as Madea continues beefing with the kid. The way Madea has no right to be criticizing a young boy when she has a big back herself. The kid is dragged away, and Bam points out a clown pushing a box. Bam shouts at the clown to stay away. Madea's prehistoric phone rings, and it's her nephew Brian asking her to stay with Tiffany. Madea complains but agrees when Brian offers to pay her. The clown approaches, and the grannies get defensive. The clown winds up the box, and Madea quickly knocks out whatever pops up. The clown reveals themselves as Joe and Hattie, Madea's brother and friend. The family arrives at Brian's house, where he complains to Madea about bringing his dad. In the living room, the seniors banter until Brian tells them to focus, prompting Madea to scold him for being bossy. Brian apologizes and explains the situation with Tiffany sneaking out to frat parties, seeking their help. Madea criticizes Brian's parenting, blaming his lack of control over Tiffany. She recalls their own strict upbringing and the whoopings they received for misbehavior. My mother used to spank me with a la chancla. The seniors agree Tiffany needs discipline, suggesting corporal punishment. Brian refuses to hit his child, but Joe argues that strict discipline made Brian the man he is today. That's not really saying much, Brian. Brian refuses to discipline Tiffany as harshly as Joe did him, recalling being thrown off a roof in his egg sac poked by a pencil. The elders banter, but Brian cuts it off, asking Madea to lie about their visit. When Tiffany comes downstairs and questions their presence, Madea struggles to lie with Brian's help. He assures Tiffany she won't be alone while he's gone. After Brian leaves, Tiffany rudely tells the elders she's tired of talking to them and goes upstairs. The elders are shocked by her attitude, and Joe wishes he could slap some sense into her. Tiffany complains to Ade about her dad having old people watch her. I would complain too, especially if I can smell their wrinkles. Ade suggests tricking the elders into sleeping early by scaring them. The girls show the elders a scary board game which they immediately reject, but Tiffany insists. Madea warns her of the consequences, and a card saying, "Death" falls out. Tiffany spins a fake story about a ghost named Mr. Wilson appearing at midnight, convincing the elders to stay in their rooms. Despite Madea's skepticism, Tiffany pretends to go to bed, signaling Ada to flicker the lights, which frightens the elders. The girls prepare to sneak out, setting up their beds to look occupied. Madea checks their room, initially fooled, but then realizes they've escaped. She informs the others, and Hattie excitedly heads to the frat party with Madea and Bam. Joe stays behind. At the party, a guy mistakes Madea's chest for a costume and is shocked when it feels real. That's what I'd call a big mama. Madea lets him and others confirm it, leading to their disgust. Madea joins Bam and Hattie and they split up to find Tiffany. Madea finds Leah and Rain, but they lie when Madea asks them if they know Tiffany. Leah and Rain quickly inform Tiffany, and Tiffany and Ada rush to leave. Jonathan greets Madea looking high and denies knowing Tiffany. Horse grasps her twin peaks, earning a punch from Madea. Their conversation is interrupted when Tyga's performance starts, and the crowd gets hyped as Leah throws it back. Hattie gets on the dance floor and shows her how it's done. Bam approaches Madea drunk and asks if she's found Tiffany. Madea says she hasn't and complains about the music, but her body's vibing to it. They find Hattie on the stage leading the crowd, but Madea pulls the plug to gain everyone's attention. Madea demands they bring Tiffany to her, but the crowd starts chanting to get rid of her. Two buff guys throw Madea out, and Tiffany watches as the grannies leave the party. Leah and Rain confront Tiffany, saying they don't want to be involved in her family's drama, but Tiffany assures them it won't happen again. Tiffany and Jonathan are left alone in his room as Ade and Dino are in his. Dino tries to make a move, but Ade tells him she's only 17, causing Dino to leave his room and scream. Back at home, Madea is upset about what happened and asks them to call the police since she can't due to her warrants. Bam takes her phone out, but Madea stops her, asking what she'll say to the police since Bam's high off her rockers. Dino tells Jonathan that Tiffany is underage and Ade is missing, causing Jonathan to panic. Horse informs them that the cops have arrived. They hurry downstairs and the cop orders the party to end and everyone complains. Jonathan gets upset and wants to hold the elders responsible, forming a plan with his brothers. However, they're unaware that Ada is hiding in the bushes. Hattie rushes downstairs in fear and tells the others that she heard something scratching the wall. Madea tells Tiffany to calm down, but there's a knock at the door. After some banter, they make Bam answer. The cop at the door asks about the call, and Tiffany goes downstairs, surprising Madea. The cop warns against prank calls, and Tiffany complies. They apologize, and Madea prepares to discipline her. Tiffany claims she was in her dad's room because her room is cold and haunted. The lights flicker, scaring the elders. Bam and Joe are fed up, but Tiffany insists the bed is the only safe place from the ghost. Tiffany returns to her room and tries to contact Ade, but only reaches voicemail. Bam finds the faucet left on and encounters a spooky message on the mirror. Hattie faces strange TV behavior and hears a creepy voice saying it's Mr. Wilson. They seek refuge in Madea's room, but she dismisses their concerns as a prank by Joe. Hattie accuses Madea of pretending not to be scared, noting her church shoes and all the lights on. Bam wants to leave, but a loud noise from the attic frightens them. They find Joe in the living room. Madea urges him to stop playing around, but Joe jokes he's only playing with himself. We did not need that mental image, Joe. Another noise from the attic prompts Madea to demand Joe check it, but he refuses, so Madea hypes herself up to investigate. Joe says that just in case Madea doesn't return, he reveals that Madea is actually a dude. Let's be honest, Madea wasn't fooling anyone. Madea investigates the attic and finds the clown costume moved. As she tries to leave, the clown approaches, and Madea punches it before fleeing. Madea tells the others to leave, but Hattie is scared by the clown at the door. Madea, unaware, turns around to see the clown beside her and starts fighting it. They rush out and try to drive off, but Madea left her keys inside. They start hot wiring the car, but Bam worries about leaving Tiffany with the clown. Joe suddenly appears with Madea's belongings and informs her of a call from the church asking about Ada. Madea learns Tiffany lied and went to the party, so they head to church. Meanwhile, Joe encounters the clown on the stairs, initially dismissing it. But as it gets closer, Joe knocks it out with his cane. On the road, Madea vows to discipline Tiffany, but the car breaks down. As they check the car, Hattie hears something, but Madea dismisses her. Suddenly, zombies emerge from the woods, and the grannies run to the church. Madea enters the church asking for prayers. The sister urges her to confess her sins, and Madea admits she's being followed by strange things. The Reverend reveals he understands, as Ada confesses that the frat boys pranked the elders by dressing as clowns and zombies. Madea is furious and wants revenge, but the Reverend urges her to find another way. Hattie and Bam burst in, and Madea, agreeing with the Reverend, plans with them to get back at the frat boys. The grannies return home to find Joe with Horse, who was the clown. Horse apologizes, saying they don't want to get kicked out of school. Madea threatens him and calls Brian to come home. The elders tell Brian everything. Madea urges him to be firmer with Tiffany, but Brian tries to discipline her gently. Madea and Joe insist he be stricter, and Brian agrees to try his way first, but will use the elders' methods if it fails. Joe doubts Brian's approach given Tiffany's disrespect. Brian sternly calls Tiffany downstairs and confronts her about attending the frat party. Tiffany rudely admits it and dismisses him, walking away. The elders are appalled, and Madea, followed by Bam and Hattie, heads upstairs to discipline Tiffany despite Brian's protests. They barge into Tiffany's room with Hattie grabbing her belongings. Madea tells Tiffany that nothing is truly hers since she didn't buy it. Madea scolds her for disrespect and says she must leave if she can't appreciate her father. Tiffany calls Brian soft, pointing out how everyone, including Madea and her mother, runs over him. She reveals she knows about her mom's affair, shocking Brian. She gagged him with that one. Tiffany challenges Brian to stand up for himself, and he agrees, helping the grannies pack her things. Madea cheers him on as Brian firmly tells Tiffany he's tried to protect her and her brother, but has had enough of her disrespect. He says if she can't follow the house rules, she needs to leave. When Tiffany tries to cry, Brian doesn't buy it, expressing his love and desire to protect her. Tiffany apologizes, and Madea advises her to forgive her parents' imperfections and help them improve. Tiffany apologizes for letting the frat boys fool the elders, and a knock is heard on the front door. Brian answers the door, and it's an officer asking to talk to Tiffany. The cop informs them that Ade has been missing and wants to question Tiffany. The following day, the police arrive at the frat house and demand they open up. The guys get to cleaning, and one of the guys, Quentin, finds Ade's dead body in the basement. He urges the other guys to check the basement as the police continue to bang on the door. The boys try to discuss who did it, but the police break through the doors. The cop explains they have a search warrant and handcuffs all the guys. Leah and Rain get in trouble for letting Tiffany go to the party even though they're aware that she's underage. The cop steps out and announces he found a body in the basement. Ade's parents rush inside, and Madea tells Tiffany that it's the reason why her father didn't allow her to go to the frat party. The officer tells the kids they're under arrest, and Brian assures his daughter he'll do his best to get her out. They board the bus where there are other prisoners, and they start taunting the kids for what happened. One of the prisoners thinks it was his sister that they killed, but someone reminds him he isn't black. They start fighting in the bus, and the elders watch in amusement from outside. The officer asks how well she did acting as a cop, and Madea reveals that their prank went well to get revenge on the kids. Madea tells the officer to let the kids go since the punishment is enough, and tells Ade to resurrect herself. The kids get off the bus, and Tiffany apologizes to Ade. Brian hopes that the kids have learned their lesson, and Jonathan apologizes to Madea. When Jonathan asks how they set up the prank, Madea explains all the people on the bus were from her hood. She proudly says that Brian was able to get fake cops since she doesn't mess around with real ones, but Brian tells her they're real police. Joe hurries off and Madea prepares herself, and the frat boys worry about the police. The cops step out holding greens, causing the boys to groan. The cop recognizes Madea, so she makes a run for it along with the frat boys, while Brian and the girls return home. I don't know why, but I really enjoy Madea movies. But not in the way you're thinking. I love how campy, corny, and stupid they are. What did you think?
Subscribe to watch more videos like this. Turn on notifications. And leave a like, it really helps the channel out. Thank you for watching.